In 1950, less than 1% of Americans had type 2 diabetes. Today, over 38 million Americans have it. Another 98 million are prediabetic. That means more than 1 in 3 adults in this country is either diabetic or one bad blood test away from it. Same country, same genetics, completely different food. So what happened? Because something changed between then and now, and it wasn't the people. It was the plate. Today we're counting down 10 foods that Americans ate every single day in the 1950s. Foods that kept blood sugar stable, kept insulin working properly, and that almost nobody eats the right way anymore. And I promise you, number 1 is not what you're expecting. Let's go. Number 10, bone broth and homemade soup. Back in the 1950s, nothing in the kitchen got thrown away. The chicken carcass, the beef bones, the leftover vegetable scraps, they all went into a pot with water and simmered on the back of the stove for hours. Nobody called it bone broth back then. They just called it soup stock. And they made it every single week. Here's why this matters for blood sugar. Real bone broth is loaded with collagen and gelatin. And researchers have discovered that gelatin-rich diets can improve the integrity of your gut lining. Why does that matter? Because a damaged gut lining, what scientists call leaky gut, is now directly linked to chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation is one of the primary drivers of insulin resistance. A 2017 study published in the journal Clinical and Translational Gastroenterology found that gut permeability is significantly elevated in type 2 diabetic patients compared to healthy controls. In other words, your gut health and your blood sugar are connected in ways we're only now beginning to fully understand. And here's the sensory detail that tells you whether you're getting the real thing. When you cool genuine bone broth overnight, it gels. It turns into a jiggly solid, like gelatin. If the broth you're buying at the grocery store stays liquid in the fridge, it has almost no collagen in it. You're paying premium prices for flavored water. Your grandmother's soup cost almost nothing to make. A store-bought bone broth today runs $8 to $12 a carton and delivers a fraction of the benefit. Number 9, dried beans and legumes, pinto beans, navy beans, butter beans, black-eyed peas. These were not a trend in the 1950s. They were Tuesday dinner, and Wednesday, and often Friday. Families kept a bag of dried beans in the pantry at all times. They were cheap, they were filling, and they stretched every meal further. A pound of dried beans fed a family of 6 for under $1. But here's what nobody talked about then, and what the science has since confirmed. Beans are one of the most powerful blood sugar stabilizers that exist in nature. The glycemic index of pinto beans is around 39. White bread sits at 75. White rice hits 72. That difference isn't minor. Every time you eat a high glycemic food, your blood sugar spikes hard. Your pancreas releases a surge of insulin, and over years and decades of that repeated pattern, your cells start to go numb to insulin's signal. That's type 2 diabetes. A Harvard study tracking over 200,000 adults found that replacing just one serving of white rice per day with legumes was associated with a 35% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes. In the 1950s. Nobody called beans a superfood. They just called it dinner. And they were right. Number 8, full-fat dairy, real butter, and whole milk. This one is going to surprise a lot of people. Because for decades we've been told that fat, especially saturated fat, is the enemy. Low-fat everything. Fat-free yogurt, skim milk, margarine instead of butter. But here's what actually happened. In the 1970s, the low-fat movement exploded. Butter got replaced by margarine, a factory product made from partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, which are loaded with trans fats. And trans fats, we now know, directly impair insulin sensitivity. They literally make it harder for your cells to respond to insulin. Meanwhile, number 7, eggs. Every single day, eggs were everywhere in the 1950s. Scrambled at breakfast, egg salad for lunch, deviled eggs at family gatherings. People ate them constantly, and here's why that matters. Eggs have almost no effect on blood sugar. No spike. No crash. Just protein, healthy fats, and nutrients your body needs. That protein also slows digestion, helping the rest of your meal enter the bloodstream more gradually. And that's exactly what your body wants. Slow and steady, not all at once there. One more thing. For years, people were told to throw away the yolk. Big mistake. The yolk is where most of the nutrition lives, the vitamins, the healthy fats, the choline. Your grandparents ate the whole egg, and for generations, it worked just fine. Number 6, seasonal vegetables were different back then. Most people think vegetables haven't changed. A tomato today is the same tomato your grandparents ate. Not exactly. Back in the 1950s, vegetables usually came from a backyard garden, a local farm, or a roadside stand down the road. They weren't shipped across the country and sitting in storage for weeks before reaching the table. People ate what was in season because that's what was available. Tomatoes in summer, squash in the fall, greens through the winter, and here's the part most people never think about. Many of those vegetables were packed with magnesium, a mineral your body needs to keep insulin working properly. When magnesium is low, blood sugar becomes harder to control. Today, millions of Americans don't get enough of it, but your grandparents were eating it almost every day without even trying. A plate full of greens wasn't considered health food. It was just dinner. And sometimes the simplest habits are the ones that work best. Number 5. Apple cider vinegar wasn't a trend. Today, people take apple cider vinegar shots and post them on social media. Back then, nobody did that. They simply cooked with it. A little in coleslaw, a little in salad dressing, a splash in homemade recipes. Nothing fancy, but something interesting was happening every time they used it. The natural acids in vinegar help slow the breakdown of carbohydrates during digestion. That means sugar enters the bloodstream more gradually instead of all at once. And gradual is exactly what your body wants. Most people think blood sugar problems start with desserts. Sometimes they start with the little things that disappeared from the kitchen. Your grandparents weren't taking supplements. They weren't following wellness influencers. They were just using ingredients that happened to work in their favor. Number 4, liver and onions. I know that a lot of people stopped listening the second they heard the word liver. But hear me out. Liver and onions used to be one of the most common dinners in America, not because people loved it, because it was affordable, and because nothing went to waste. What nobody knew at the time was that liver is one of the most nutrient-dense foods you can eat. Vitamin B12. Vitamin A. Folate. Iron. Minerals that help support healthy metabolism. It's basically nature's multivitamin. Today, people spend hundreds of dollars a year on supplements trying to get nutrients that used to come from one inexpensive meal. Your grandmother wasn't thinking about nutrition science. She was thinking about feeding a family on a budget. The health benefits were simply a bonus. Number 3. Bread was simpler. Bread used to have a very short ingredient list. Flour, water, yeast, salt. That was pretty much it. Today, some loaves have ingredient labels that look more like chemistry experiments, and that's a problem. Because the bread itself has changed. Many traditional breads contain more fiber and less processing than what most people buy now, and fiber matters. It slows down digestion and helps prevent the sharp blood sugar spikes that put stress on your body. Think about it. Families bake bread every week. They ate it regularly, yet type 2 diabetes remained extremely uncommon. The difference wasn't that people avoided bread. The difference was the kind of bread they were eating. Number 2, fish was on the table more often. Salmon patties, tuna casserole, fried catfish. For many families, fish showed up several times a week. Not because doctors recommended it, because it was affordable and easy to prepare. What makes fish special is its omega-3 fats. Those healthy fats help support the body's natural response to inflammation, and chronic inflammation is closely connected to insulin resistance. Most people focus on sugar when they think about diabetes, but inflammation is part of the story too. Your grandparents may not have known what omega-3s were. They didn't need to. They were getting them anyway. Sometimes good habits come from practicality, not health advice. Number 1, the real secret wasn't a food. Okay, this is the one most people never expect, because the biggest difference between the 1950s and today wasn't a single food. It was how people ate breakfast, lunch, dinner. And then they stopped. There wasn't constant snacking. There weren't energy bars in the car. There weren't sugary coffees every few hours. People ate their meal and moved on with their day. That gave the body time to process glucose and bring insulin levels back down. And there was something else. They walked, not for exercise, not to hit 10,000 steps, just because life required it. Kids walked to school. Adults walked to stores. Neighbors walked to visit each other. Movement was built into everyday life. Today, many people sit for hours at a time. and eat from morning until bedtime, your body never gets A. Break that's why the biggest lesson from the 1950s isn't a recipe, that it's a routine, real food. Regular meals, daily movement, nothing complicated. Yet it may be the most powerful thing on this entire list.